So I'll do a quick introduction. My name is Dr. Let me make sure I'm recording first. Yes. My name is Dr. Darlene Mortel Edouard. I'm the Director of Education for BRIC Foundation. It is with extreme pleasure I get to introduce you to one of our sponsors and close education partners, Cleverlike. We have three of the folks with us here to present a panel on called Level Up, How Video Games Drive Career Readiness and Curricular Engagement. So I'm very excited to have them here and share all that they know and all that they do with all of you. So I'm going to pass it to you all to introduce yourselves.
Wonderful. Thank you. Hey, everybody. Welcome. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Brian, but before I get into introductions, I do want to kind of reiterate the topic of conversation today. So, talking about video games in a positive light, and driving career readiness, curricular engagement. These are the pieces we're going to try to weave together for you in a way that kind of shows the vision that we have for the positive use of video games in education, that give back to the students, because we know students don't mind being told to use video games in their work, but the real question is how do we drive that in a way that it makes them benefit in the long term, and that's where the career readiness piece comes in. So let's get on into some introductions. So I'm Brian. I'm the founder CEO of Cleverlike Studios. My background is in computer science and education and business, and I've kind of brought all those. I've been teaching and learning in this space all my life, and a lot of that informs what we do and the way we see things here in the work that we do. So our real focus is trying to make difficult concepts easy to grasp and kind of tie into excitement and motivation that students have for learning new things. Make those accessible. And the only way to really do that is with amazing educators, and that's where the rest of my team comes in. So I'll hand it over to Ian.
Hello, hello. Am I coming through? Am I nice and clear?
Ooh,
Do I
very
have to try and
nice.
restart the whole thing? Yay. So I'm Ian. I go by he, him, and his. I grew up as an artist and had a lot of fun doing that, but ended up moving into video games as a storyteller. I ended up building a lot of environments, all the way back to as far as Tony Hawk. And you're thinking, what kind of stories could you build with Tony Hawk? Well, go back and play them and go figure them out. Building stories is a huge part of being able to tell stories at the same time. So I've always wanted to make sure that those stories go across. And a big part of doing that is actually taking what I learned from working in the video game industry and then moving into education. So taking those skills and those tricks and then teaching the next group of kids and adults to actually do that. So as an Unreal authorized instructor, I live inside of the Unreal Engine and build worlds, environments, tell stories, and make sure that that world is very understandable for anybody that actually walks into it. So if they walk in there and go, oh, this is a lava world, be like, well, then don't touch the lava, obviously, right? Some of those really obvious things, but there's some subtle things that go into there too. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as we get further into what we're going to be chatting about today. Then I will pass it off to Eric.
Thank you so much. You know what I realized, Ian, is I am wearing your hat in the image over there on the slide, but not today. Well, not literally your hat, but But my name is Eric Leitner. I'm the education content producer for Cleverlike Studios. I'll give you a little background, though. For 13 years, I was a classroom educator. Teaching everything from science, STEM, computer science, and so on. Kind of one of those, we're going to throw everything at you that falls even remotely in that field, and you're going to do it. But where storytelling kind of falls into all of that for me, and of course, where I had to then support it, and I'll talk about that in a second, is if you are or were a classroom educator, or if you're a recent student, you probably realize that every time you were in any class, whether it was a science class, a STEM class, a social studies class, etc., everything you did, there was a component that was hopefully, a sort of take it to writing. I remember I was teaching science specifically, and my administrators were always like, but are you writing? Are you writing? And I'm like, of course we're reading. Of course we're writing. We're in the classroom. Like, how else would we do science if we were not reading and writing? But obviously that ELA component kind of, is an umbrella skill that we need across the board. After that role in the classroom for 7 years, I was the STEM and computer science instructional facilitator for Broward County Public Schools in South Florida. It's the sixth largest school district in the nation. I supported 235 schools, which was a lot. And then for about the past 4 years, I have been working along with the team here at Cleverlike. And my job really has been to take those advanced skills, like the ones that Ian is doing, and saying, how do I start students down that pathway from like even a third or second grade level, where it makes sense to them, where their classroom content is what they are doing in those spaces. So they're starting to get some of those transferable technical skills along the way. And Brian, I'll pass it back to you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so I'm lucky to be surrounded by, people that are really passionate about teaching, really great at teaching, and understand the spaces where students are and where teachers need students to get to. So, when we talk about our team and the way we structure our priorities, we look at firstly, we look at popular video games. Popular video games because that's where the motivation is, this intrinsic motivation. This is the holy grail, right? Where everybody wants kids to just be motivated. I want you to be excited about what I'm teaching you. I want you to be motivated to do your homework and to learn. And we choose the popular video games because the motivation is high there. They're not afraid to do the work, to invest, to fail, to have grit and perseverance when they play video games. And we want to bring as much of that to the table as possible in the work that we do because we use those platforms as a learning experience, right? So how do we tap into Minecraft and Fortnite and Unreal Engine to create learning opportunities because that's where the motivation lives. And that's where they have built quite a schema around those things. And I think what makes us be able to answer that question is that we have been producing games. Not only like has Ian, worked in the industry for many years, but we've been producing games as a game publisher, both in Fortnite and in Minecraft. So you could see we have a number of different commercial published programs. We know the environment inside and out. And on that note, we take that skill and we bring it to education. We have produced education experiences that have been played globally for many years. And this takes our knowledge of the game and what students love about the game and also aligns to an educational mission, like how do we get students to experience to develop some AI literacy. How about learning more about agriculture and biotechnology, or how solar vehicles work, um, data privacy, cybersecurity, coding, things like that. We build lessons into these popular video games for students. And we do that not only on the Minecraft side, but we also do that in the Unreal Engine side. And as educators, when we produce this content, we produce the full package of content, something that an educator really needs to bring this successfully into the classroom, right? So we include the lesson plans, the educator guides, the video walkthroughs, everything that the students and the teachers need, including the sample projects that are required, all comes together in the package so that these educational experiences fit really well into the classroom. They hit the standards that teachers need to teach, and they prepare teachers of all levels to be able to bring this to the students. And that's really important to us because we know students have been investing more heavily in video game skills, like the gamer schema, I call it. They've kids have been playing and working with video games and talking with their friends and watching YouTube videos about it since they're as young as they can hold a phone. And we want to leverage that into learning opportunities as well as developing those students further. And that's our theme that we went back to early on was how do we leverage that to their day-to-day learning in a way that benefits them in the future, right? That's the recurring theme that we're going to touch on as we go through here. And so we've had in our education content, we've reached over 80 million players, students around the world, and that was a number that's now a year old. And that did not include our AI literacy work that we've done for Microsoft. So there's a lot of reach that we've had. And I say this to help establish some level of credibility in the environment that we're building in where we're meeting the students. We're not meeting that they're like, oh, hey, the kids love to play these video games. Let's just figure out like what to throw in there that we need and get our job done of teaching them. We go in there knowing why kids are motivated, what they're excited about, and how to kind of direct that energy in a positive way. So we're not coming in to leverage and steal their motivation. We're coming in to enhance the outcomes from their motivation, right? And we see it as an investment that students are making in themselves. This QR code will go to a careers in interactive 3D guide that Epic Games creates. This is the destination we're heading towards. So let's talk about the career as the destination, right? We're preparing students for the future as young as early elementary school. What does that look like? Because you don't start they don't start working on their resume or their portfolio in second grade. So what does it look like in second grade to be moving towards this destination? And this is a vision that I think that we have very clearly envisioned and are building solutions towards. So we see a lot of reasons in elementary because everyone has a Chromebook or a tablet. They don't necessarily have access to PCs or gaming computers. So technology is limited, and needs to be the solutions need to be accessible to students in those spaces. So we do a lot of work with Minecraft education. If you imagine, Minecraft Bedrock might be on their parents' phone at first, and then maybe on their own tablet when they, as they're getting into school and have a tablet that they have the privilege to play on, and then, or an Xbox or a Nintendo Switch or something like that, where students they're investing their time in their 3D spatial awareness. They're investing time in the stories and in the characters, in the scenes, and the expectations and the narrative and the vocabulary that comes with 3D environments at a young age, right? And then there's Minecraft Education, which is a school-based version of Minecraft that takes into account things like privacy and security and educational rigor and things like that. So we start to tap into that. And then we want to move the students towards these careers. Like, what does it look like? What are you going to bring to your job? What skill are you going to bring to your job when you graduate school? How can we prepare you for that? Would we be doing the student justice if we were like, wow, they love to build in Minecraft. Let's keep building in Minecraft until they're ready to go out and get a job. And then they show up at the job and they're trying to build something in Minecraft on day one of the job, right? We love Minecraft and love where it belongs, but it doesn't belong, in day one of your job. In that case, unless you're working for us, and we you need we need you to make
I was gonna
game.
say that was day one of my job, and
Exactly. Like, so if you're fortunate enough to do the work that we do and get to work in these video games, then yes, it's super important to know that very deeply. But again, we're preparing for students for a diverse level of careers in a tool like Unreal Engine, which really taps into some universal transferable skills into many different industries. And that's important because we're talking about games. It's not about game time. It's not about building games. It's not just about that. It's about learning skills that you could transfer into your area of interest. So what is your area of interest as a student? Like you might find, and you might not know in sixth grade or seventh grade or even 12th grade, but um, if you build skills in these tool sets, those skills can come with you and be productive. And what's productive mean? What it means ultimately is that it makes the company that you're working for money so that they can pay you. At the end of the day, like if your job doesn't do something to make the company more money, then it's going to be difficult for you to have a job. And what's nice about these skills is that they're a real difference maker and they're also something that makes products and services and companies stand out and generate more revenue from the work that they do. So architecture, film and TV, automotive. So architecture might be, if you can really help somebody visualize what these apartments look like before they're built, walk through it, feel it, get the sense for it. Like if you're really good at manipulating 3D environments in a way that makes somebody want to buy something that doesn't exist yet, that'd be really valuable for the company that you're working for. As it pertains to that, and like live events and broadcast, if you could put overlays on top of a sporting event that makes a sporting event more engaging, makes people want to watch it more, talk about it more, follow it better, get more excited about it, better placement for advertisers. So it generates more money because of the cool thing that you're doing that's noticeable, that gets more attention for advertisers. Those are the things that make the ecosystem work. And these are the skills that students can bring to the table if you can guide them towards these skills in a way that benefits them day to day, right? So we want to make this statement about how much opportunity comes from this area of skill that students are basically adjacent to every day that they're interested in games. They're building this investment. How are we helping them leverage it? Obviously, film, television, animation, things like that all leverage these skills as well. The Mandalorian uses it for their virtual backgrounds of their scenery. Lots of animation, special effects, things like that are using these tools as well. And if you look at these companies that use this tool already to be competitive in the space, you'll see automotive. There's lots of, automotive both in the design as well as in the human machine interface. The dashboard of cars are using these tools to visualize your environment around you as you're driving, but also, furniture, entertainment, aerospace, things like that. There are some serious companies out there making really productive and profitable use of this technology that is born out of video games, and we'll talk more about it as we go. I like to play this little video. This is a video that shows everything except video games, right? So this is things in Unreal Engine that are not video games. So Unreal Engine is the tool that makes Fortnite and Rocket League and other popular video games, but this particular scissor reel has nothing to do with video games. It's all different industries. So I'd love for you, as you notice an industry that's being highlighted here, I'd love for you to throw it in the chat. So let's see how many different industries we can pick up as we watch this video. All right. Thank you for the participation in chat. I was getting a little worried at first, but y'all pulled through. Oh, you're muted, Eric.
They were compiling ideas,
They
right?
were, yeah. Yeah. They were
rendering ideas, if you will.
They didn't want to miss while they were typing, so I'm trying to do both. Yes, lots of different industries. And you can see here we have TV and film in addition to games. There's animation, product visualization, right? We saw like the watch was one of them. There's some of the things with the automotive components as well. in there. There's lots of like vehicle design, specification, visualizing what your vehicle will look like once it's fully built out with your customizations, architecture, media broadcasting, training, simulation, lots of different industries. I'd like to just make it clear that at this point, gaming kind of connects into all of these different possibilities for students, right? And so when we look at a student that's playing Minecraft, it's not a matter of, gosh, like when are you going to do something productive with your life and, get off that game so you could start getting to work. The real question as the adult and as the mentor and as the teacher is really like, what am I doing to help direct this energy towards an outcome that's going to be beneficial for this person? So how can I make today's experience in this environment that they obviously enjoy being in, how can I make this enjoyable as well as productive for the student? And so this is what we obsess over, and we see where it's okay to play, but also where all of the traps, if you don't understand what they're doing and where they can go when they're playing a game, then how are you going to guide them to the next step? People start putting in restrictions. Like you can only have two. I don't know what you're doing. I don't know where it's going, but and what we're going to do is we're just going to limit it to 1 or 2 hours a day because I don't want to be open to too much risk here. Right. Right. I think a lot of these imposed restrictions come from lack of experience or awareness to where it could be guided. And not that we need to overly structure, but I think there's an opportunity to delight students in a way that guides them further. And we're going to show you actual hands-on demonstrations of what we think that looks like. Okay, so this is the progression. Students have a long time in school. Like if you're in second grade, you've got 10 years or so before you're in 12th grade, right? That's a long time. That's a decade. And I think there's a decade of opportunity that most educators aren't aware of. And so the way we're trying to address these things is kind of in a multifaceted approach. We are working in every level of education we're working in, from elementary to higher ed. And we're trying to basically bridge all of these pieces together in a nice contiguous pathway. And so the game brain pathway is something we'll spend some time talking to you about and showing you so that you can see what that looks like. And then we have something very specific towards the end, that we could use in the CTE level where students are getting ready for careers in something very specific. And game design is one of the obvious areas where this is very deeply ingrained. So we have curriculum and as well as career exploration around these tools, using game design as one of the hooks for that. But then we also have some specialized learning around other aspects that branch from game design but use the same exact tools and environments, right? So let's pick the first one and let's talk about what we call game brain, or our video game skill tree. All right, so we have this idea of turning students' passion for video games into ways to get them more engaged in what's important to the teacher today, right? So the real question, what we look at is like the third grade teacher is like, how is this helping me teach the student what I need them to learn before they move on to the next grade, right? It's not all about the kids love it. Let them have fun. They're going to get more excited about it. Like the teacher has some real deadlines and constraints and goals that have to be achieved. And so the question is, how are we going to incorporate this into that teacher's life so that we can get this student to progress further down the line? And one of the tricks of all of this is that it's not necessarily the teacher's job to do all the work. It's not like it's a field trip. Playing video games in the classroom to me feels like it could be a field trip. Like it's a lot of work, a lot of coordination. You got to keep everybody in the same place, and you have to get them to the same destination. It's chaotic, it's stressful. I don't think that's how we should be doing things. So when we think about like game-based learning, and like, okay, kids, we're going to go on a field trip in a video game inside the classroom. That adds, I think, a level of stress as opposed to, hey, kids, use the tools and skills that you are most comfortable with to demonstrate to me your knowledge on this subject that I'm teaching you. And we want video games to be one of those possible items. Someone could choose drawing or something else, but we want them to be able to use the video game as their skill. And that's the important thing, is that the students are the ones acquiring the skills. If you remember from the beginning, we talked about their investment in video games from when they're 2 years old. They're the ones that have been working on this since they're 2 years old, building this skill. And what's our obligation? Our obligation is not to get one step ahead of them, because we're already so far behind when it comes to that level of skill. So what we have to do is we have to understand what they have and where they're going and how we can get them through that, right? So one of the examples in this scenario, if we put it to some concrete examples, one of them could be, I am going to teach you in your video game that you love to play so much. I'm going to teach you how to make a character of your own design. Okay. Now, there's lots of ways you can go find characters that are already created. That doesn't solve the problem, or it doesn't create the opportunity that we're talking about creating. So I think an average person might try to solve it by looking for things that are already done, because that's kind of what game-based learning does. It gives you stuff that's already done, created by somebody else for you to experience. But what about something created by the student? So we would introduce a tool we call Blockbench. Well, we don't call it that. Well, we call it that because that's what it's called. They made us call it that. It's a tool. It's a commercial tool. It's available for free. Works in a web browser, but it's the tool that we use to generate and create assets for Minecraft. It's the tool that Microsoft and Mojang use to create assets for Minecraft. It's a professional tool, but it's accessible in to anyone. And so the opportunity here is most students probably haven't heard of this tool. But if we can tell the students, you can expand your game that you love, and you could build characters that relate to your education in a way that's productive to your future, what does that look like? So from a career skills standpoint, the reasons why we're using Blockbench is because it is a transferable skill. It is basically the scaffolded approach to Unreal Engine, but it's the elementary school version of those skills, right? So you're learning how to manipulate objects and move yourself around in 3D space. You're learning how models are the structure, and textures are the imagery that are mapped onto the model to make it look a certain way. And you're learning also how skeletal structures are made and what hierarchy is. A lot of teachers talk about students don't even know how to navigate like folders in like File Explorer. They don't really understand hierarchy. But when they think about like a body and parts of the body that are connected to each other in a hierarchy, and they get a chance to exercise that skill over and over, so it becomes intuitive, the idea of a hierarchy becomes very necessary, becomes important, it becomes obvious at some point because they've been using it in a meaningful way for these purposes. And then all of the objects have their own attributes. They have pivot points to rotate, manipulate. They have their where they belong in 3D space and how you can manipulate them, right? So these are all skills that a student would learn just in a simple task of creating a character. What is creating a character? What's the value of creating a character? How is that important to their day-to-day education, right? So, like, if a student could create a character, would they be more vested in the work that they have to do, the writing that they have to do, the research that they have to do? If I say design a Minecraft character that looks like this scientist or this president or this whatever that we were studying, wouldn't they have to delve into that person's image and information about them more closely in order to do it? I think of it as the teacher becomes almost like the customer, and with a product spec, like I want you to build me a this and a that. And what the product spec really is in education terms is called a rubric, right? So you become the student is the contractor, you're the customer, you're hiring the contractor to build something for you to certain specification. It's really the teacher saying, I need you to do this work for me according to this specification, which is the rubric. And of course, these tools are tools that the students love to use and are really excited to bring to the table and to build the product that you asked for, right? So you can see lots of different potential educational curricular connections when students can build their own characters. And in doing so, they're developing a skill over time. And so we talk about we kind of talk about this as when we look at this pathway that we're building, we see it as, first of all, we're choosing creative video games. These are video games that could act as a canvas. They can act as a place for students to build and create and articulate, demonstrate their knowledge and understanding. And so we talk about the idea of the student using tools to enhance their ability to demonstrate this knowledge and to create these images inside their work. So if you imagine something that's very common in everyone's lives is some sort of art progression, right? We learn finger painting when we're young because you don't have the fine motor skills and it's very tactile and you could eat it without dying. All the important things, right? And then you move on to crayons, and then you start discovering the risks of crayons when you find your closet wall has been covered in crayon and stuff like that. You realize, but those risks aren't that dangerous, right? And then you start getting into more sophisticated skills. You start using more tools. You can be more creative, and you can articulate way more clearly what you're trying to articulate. And art as a progression is pretty well known. It's well established. It's well understood. When it comes to a creative video game, most people don't know. Like if a student likes to build in Minecraft, teachers, let's say that's finger painting. They learned it when they were two. If building a basic, if the basic act of building in Minecraft is as simple as finger paints, then a teacher that's asking a student to build in Minecraft something very complex, you build me a sustainable city in Minecraft, build me, they're doing some very deep thinking. They're working, they're collaborating, they're problem solving, they're critical things. They're doing a lot of amazing things, which is what still makes it great. But the problem with that is that they're still using essentially finger paints. They're using a skill that they learned in the software that they learned when they were two. What they haven't done is had a chance to learn what Blockbench is and start to incorporate that into their work. And it's our goal to introduce students to tools earlier and incorporate those tools into their day-to-day work so that those students will be in a better position for careers later. And I think they'll also be more engaged in the work that they do day to day. And one of the examples as we dive into our video game skill tree is, first of all, like we have lots of different activities in our skill tree. So think of like students acquire the skill, just like learning what paints are, learning what pastels are, learning how to use markers and how to clean up watercolors and all this other stuff, right? They have to learn how to do those things. But once they learn how to do those things, you don't run through that same learning over and over again, right? They know how to do it. They can apply it when and where they want to if it resonates with their interests. And so we created a library of lessons that are essentially creative skills that you could learn very quickly in any setting. And we can talk about that a little bit more. But that's basically what we're doing is we're helping kind of embed creative skills using tools around the video games that kids love. And to make this more visual for people that are still kind of getting it, but not quite getting it, we've created a little bit of a pathway. So first of all, when you look at this, you could see the obvious across the top. you've got your elementary, middle, high school, and then college and career. And then we've categorized when we do like career exploration, we we kind of try to pull out like who are you as a person and what drives your motivation and your interest? Are you a visual person? Do you love arts and being creative in a visual way? Are you a storyteller? Do you want to tell stories, create characters, get into the nitty gritty of story? Are you a technical artist, the kind that's kind of always um, bringing creativity to the next level through ingenuity? Or are you an engineer that honestly the pretty stuff is just in the way of the technical stuff, right? Like you're like, I don't care. I'm gonna just make this white block, white cube do what I need it to do, and that's gonna prove the point that my code works, and then I can give it to somebody who cares about the visual piece, right? We try to help students understand that there's a place for them in all these different spaces, and when we're teaching them skills, that they understand that these skills kind of connect into a pathway of future careers in these different spaces. So our hope by the end of a student feeling, kind of achieving all of the learning in these different categories, they really are like, I know what I love to do. I know the skills that I want to bring to the table when I show up at a job, or the kind of work that I want to do every day. When I start my career is going to be in this area because this is the area I gravitate towards. This is where I'm developing more expertise and learning and better preparing for the future. So if we were to click on that visual arts category of elementary school, we have our idea of like what products should be used in that space that lend itself to the space, right? Elementary school doesn't have the same resources that a college might have or a high school might have. So we have to lean into the realities of what is available in those spaces. Time is also one of the things that is subject to availability in different ways as we go through things. But when we're curious about language arts, you see what we've done is we further segmented visual arts into the core subjects. So we could teach a student something visual in Minecraft related to science or math or language arts, right? And so if we were to pick the language arts example, you see here that we have the idea of a language arts project that a student can do that would get them really excited about doing their work. And so I'd like to assign student Eric to do his homework. No dessert for you until your homework is done. So you wanna show us a little bit about what this might look like for a student to work in this project?
Yeah, let's take a look at that. You can't hear me, right? I'm unmuted
You're
because.
unmuted. We hear
All
you.
right, good. Let's do that, and let's make sure the screen sharing is going to work properly. And let's see how that goes. It's thinking about it,
Nice.
and we're confirming that the screen is shared, right? We're
Hmm.
good.
Yep.
Okay, awesome. All right, so with that project in mind, and that project was very specifically, if you looked at the details of that pack of that project, was very much using a tool that we would call the Cleverlike Image Packer. But I am going to back up a step because Brian mentioned a few things. So one, Brian mentioned, sharing projects, for example, that allow students to use Blockbench, a modeling software. And on top of that, of course, we use tools that we've created, middleware tools that are, again, all web-based, that allow students to create add-ons and things like that to enhance the Minecraft experience. Because as Brian would say, and kind of demonstrated in some of the images on the slides, if we're telling, and this is kind of one of the uses of Minecraft education, all the way from kindergarten up through the high school space, is things like build challenges, right? Like build a sustainable environment or a sustainable city. Yes, I can assign that to third graders and they can build. But if we're still doing that as we progress into upper elementary and middle school and high school, then we're still in the finger paints. And the idea is to get out of the finger paints. So, for example, let's say we were doing a reading assignment and we're doing a reading assignment on a character, let's say like Leonardo da Vinci, right? Rather than just, doing that in our Take It to Writing journal, which does not engage your students. I always had our students take things to writing. I always had them reading, but it wasn't always the most engaging. So we always had to come up with ways to make it more engaging for them. And taking things to writing in a Minecraft environment definitely was an encouragement for them to do it, as well as for some of them, a means to kind of show off a skill that they already had that they wish they could bring to the classroom that would allow them to come out of that shell that they're in their classroom, because they're not the athlete, or they're not, the mathlete. I guess we could also use that as the example. But boy, do they know how to play Minecraft, and they've got that expertise and they're ready to share it. But we want to we want to push them a little further. We want to encourage them, and we want to teach them skills that they want to know. So again, this is Blockbench, right? And in here, we can create Minecraft skins, and these are essentially the skins that characters would wear. So this is a Leonardo da Vinci. For example, let's say we were doing a project instead on, and I'm going to do one that is both ELA and science a little bit, and I will show you the one that Brian did, but let's do one that's a little bit more ELA and science, since there's always ELA overlap with our other content areas. And I wanted students to do a lesson on flowering plants, right? And I want them to take pictures of flowering plants in their neighborhood and create a project that shows me which flowering plants they have in their neighborhood, how they identified them, and so on. Now, they could do that on a poster board. They could do that in a shoebox diorama. And by the way, if you are like me and you were a classroom educator for a long time and you did poster boards and you did shoebox dioramas, you knew that by the end of the school year, you had a garbage can full, or multiple garbage cans full, of shoebox dioramas and poster boards. The kids don't want to take those home and display them forever. Not to mention, there's always that one kind of thing, which is like, did they do this or did their parents do this project? Now, if it's a poster board and it's beautiful, there's always the possibility their parents did it, or at least obviously had some assistance in doing it, which is fine. But if it's a Minecraft project, I can feel pretty confident that this is student work and far less likely that it is parent work. Although as our generations get older, that might change a bit. Right? So that Just Like Me course that Brian was teaching basically teaches students these concepts. And if we look at this and we have in our minds, if you don't know what this looks like, keep this in your mind as Ian takes the stage in a little while, right? As what elements we see here that they are already doing on an elementary level that will then be transferable skills to the things that Ian is instructing that are, college and career readiness skills, right? So what do we have on screen? We have our texture over here. We have our 3D model in the middle that we can manipulate and rotate, and we're doing some navigation skills and so on. We have got things like our color picker, which is using hexadecimal codes up here. And of course, we have our outliner. And in our outliner, our selection tool here, we can see all of the geometry elements that make up this model. And we can hide those, right? And we can view those using some of these interactive icons here on the right-hand side. And we will see those again in other tools, but they're getting introduced to them here pretty rapidly. This is a low resolution texture in Minecraft, but that's what most of them are. But we also eventually will teach them how to do things a little bit more high resolution. Now, it can't be drastic, and we're not changing the model, but we're making that skill transferable. So they're starting to understand what the texture sizes are like and how those map properly to geometries and things like that. And this is just to make a character that looks, in this case, like me, right? So I made me. I did the lesson. I made a just like me. Here's a just like me. And we have, by the way, some things coming up in the Q&A, so we'll keep an eye on that as well. Right? But the assignment was to take pictures of flowering plants and bring them into our environment. But if we're going to do that, we need characters that are going to explain what's happening in a Minecraft space. We need textures and iconography and imagery that's going to demonstrate our learning. We need to be able to take it to writing. That's that ELA component, and write about the things that we found, that we identified. Informational text, right, is still storytelling, is still taking it to writing. So all of those elements are part of our classroom experience, part of our students' classroom experience. And this may be the way they get passionate about sharing the learning and sharing the knowledge they're doing while learning transferable skills they'll use in their futures. So we create a skin. And one of the next courses, and I'm not going to do it here, but is to take this skin and convert it into an NPC, a non-player character in Minecraft, right? So in that case, we're learning about the character behaviors. We're learning about how those characters are interactable. We're learning about what features we do and do not want to that character to have in terms of their look and appearance and how they behave. And again, are they interactable? So turning on some of those settings and those features right here in the Blockbench tool. Shifting over, we have a ton of web-based tools, and we've got more coming all the time that allow students to modify the game without needing external software, because we know in the classroom getting software installed for educators, especially if they're on low-end devices like Chromebooks and things like that, is a nightmare. So we want them to have the tools they need right at their fingertips. So in this case, I have done exactly that assignment. I have gone out and I have taken a bunch of pictures of flowering plants in my neighborhood. And yes, it was a very warm winter here in Colorado. And yes, the plants are already flowering. So I've got all my flowering plants right here. So if I look over here at my tools, I have a tool called the image packer right here. And let's go to that tool. And we can see we can drag a file here. Rather than drag one, I'm going to drag all. Here's 12 images. Boom, there they are. I can adjust their aspect ratios of how they're going to appear, right? So I can choose from either fit, contain, which would be the original aspect ratio, or cover, which kind of crops the top and the bottom. And I can adjust however I want to any of these images. I can choose an icon for that pack, or I can even upload my own icon. And I can give this pack a name. Let's call this my flowering plants, right? And I can download this pack as an MC add-on file. The beauty of that is MC add-on files actually can be installed into Minecraft Education simply by double-clicking them. And all of a sudden, they will have these behavior and resource packs that this tool will generate to use in their Minecraft worlds. The same is true, by the way, of Blockbench when we're creating characters and things like that. So what does that look like in Minecraft? So if I come over to Minecraft Education, and I don't know how familiar everyone is with Minecraft Education and how it varies from, let's say, the regular Minecraft game. But it is a very sort of classroom-based lockdown version of Minecraft, but most of the Minecraft features are still here. And that includes using external behavior packs and resource packs. But we want students to do that in a managed and safe way, which is what our tools allow. So let's say I want to create a space where I can demonstrate that learning, right? What flowers did I see in my neighborhood? How did I identify them? Who's going to tell me what this project is about? Like, how do I kick that off? Like, what's the information about the project you're about to participate in? So I started an example of this, and we're just going to open up a Minecraft world here. But let's say we were creating a project called Flowering Plants. And for this example, I'll just go into the settings of that world. You can see I would make a world called Flowering Plants, and we would add the behavior packs that I created. This is my NPC of me, a little stretched out image, and that's okay. This is the Flowering Plants, right? That I pack that I just put together. The same with the resource packs. Those are active as well. And then I can play this game. So I've added files that I have made to be used in this Minecraft space, essentially creating modifications that allow me to bring my learning and understanding more so into that space, as well as creating the custom things that I need to do it well, right? And beyond what the game allows. Or I should say provides. Right. So here I am in this space. And admittedly, I've kind of started this project in the space because we weren't going to walk you through, watch me build a Minecraft world. That would be a very long project. But if I go into my inventory, I should have two things I didn't have before. Right. One is I now have this Cleverlike image tool. And one is I should have my River NPC. It's my screen name that I use, by the way, River, all the time. So I have that in there as well. And now I have an NPC that I can place in the world, right? I can interact with that NPC. There's no dialogue in that NPC, but we teach students how to go into world builder mode and change the name of that character, right? And edit and add dialogue. That is not how you spell there.
Am I motivated to write now that I've created this character and brought it into my life. The thing
Nope.
that I really want to do is write.
No, no, I would. Can you just please give me a notebook and a pencil? That's so much more engaging. I'm sorry.
Exactly.
All right. So I'm doing that storytelling, even if it is something that is informational. I'm creating the characters that are going to provide that information. I'm creating the environment that's going to provide that information. I'm bringing in the assets that demonstrate the learning, and I'm providing the information about those assets all in one digital space. This is the shoebox diorama 2.0, right? I do not need a bunch of things I'm going to throw away at the end of the year. I know for a fact my students are doing it, and they're utilizing skills they will use in their futures as they progress along this pathway. Whereas, as much as they are learning motor skills by gluing little things into a shoebox, I definitely wouldn't show up for my first day, if I was showing up for my job interview here at Cleverlike and bring my shoebox diorama with all my little plastic dinosaurs glued in it and be like, this is why you should hire me.
Actually would be compelling.
It might be. Not gonna lie. It
For
might
you to
be.
have the guts to do that, I'd be like, this cat must have something real special.
Right. And here I've already actually started that process. So you can see, right, I've got my character in here. If I switch back out of that editor mode, right, that's got dialogue introducing the project that I've been working on. And then within the world, I've got the images. I've got them named and labeled. I've got information about them there, and I can interact with them to bring up information about them here. Right? Let's take another look at an example, because so now I've created a sort of gallery walk. And in this case, since it's flowers, I've done some of the Minecrafting stuff I love and put some of the flowering assets that are in there in the world along with the things that are there, right? But obviously I've got one missing here, so let's add it here, right? And let's look at how this image tool works, and we'll just put that there. We'll scale this up. We'll go back into our world builder mode. And what am I missing? I'm missing my dandelion. Right? So this is a common dandelion. And if I wanted to, then I could edit the dialogue that I want. What information do I want it to have about that dandelion? How did I identify it? Where does it grow? Is it native here or not? I can include all of that information. Again, I was a science teacher, but we took all of this stuff to writing. There was always the ELA components, right? And I've got now this project-based world that I can demonstrate this. And there are lots of tools, we talk about this in our coursework too, that make it easy for us to share this content with other students, with our teachers. So if you need something that is, as an educator, like something that's going to be graded, we want to make sure that's easy enough for you too. You don't have to explore digitally, 30 something worlds that your students have turned in. They're turning in assignments the way they would turn in any digital assignment, via an LMS or anything like that, and a file upload. I'll give you another example, or a few more examples, because I see we've got some sort of variety of folks here. Let's look at maybe a more traditional ELA project, which was the one that was the example that Brian gave, which would be something like a vocabulary lesson, right? We're reading a book. That book has vocabulary. Well, how do we bring that vocabulary into one of these spaces, right? How do I do my vocabulary in a visual sense or in a 3D digital sense? Right? Instead of just write a sentence 10 times that uses the word, tail. Here, the word tail is up here, right? And that student inevitably writes, I don't know what a tail is. I don't know what a tail is. I don't know what a tail is. The word tail has 4 letters. Like, no, those were not the uses in a sentence we were looking for. Right? So again, right? Character that's created, right? We've got imagery in here, like the cover of the book we're reading. And then we'll do some running a bit here. And we've got vocabulary words along with some of the images that we've got right out of the book. So here's an image that represents the word mischievous, right? And here's Peter Rabbit climbing under a fence, right? And if we click into it, we see the students writing, right, in their own words about the word mischievous, right? Or gather, or sieve. These are all words from the text. I do like this one a lot. I'm not going to lie. Although they should have capitalized Lego, and it's Lego bricks. No, all right. So there's lots that can be done in here. And you can see that they've taken it to their vocabulary. One of the things that I love as well is we see a large component of our arts and media arts teachers wanting to use tools and pathways like this, because how do we bridge that gap between the physical art we're doing and the digital art components or media arts that we're doing at a young age? Well, let's imagine we walk into an elementary or middle school art class and we're doing physical art components, right? Paintings and drawings and so on. What we're not designing, or what students are not often designing, is the space that that art will live in, right? Where is that art going to be? And using these same tools, and this will be the last thing I share before I hand it back to Brian and Ian, students can actually create the gallery of their physical art by, scanning or photographing their art components and bringing them into a museum space, either ones that they're utilizing or that they've designed. Bring in their things like their NPCs or other assets they've created using our tools. For example, we have one that allows them to create wearable items like these. And then, of course, presenting the art that they've created all around their gallery, which is not something we typically do in Minecraft.
This is with photos of actual student art,
This is, and I'll fly to make it a little faster. But yeah, in fact, to really sell its student art one, I always like to show the ones that have a little bit of like paper cutting or 3 dimensions, so you can see like it's been cut out and photographed, because there's a bit of a shadow from the flash of the camera. But it looks great.
It's cool.
Yeah. And there's nothing stopping them from using these spaces to do a gallery of historical events or the planets in the solar system or any other concepts.
You put on one of those jerseys?
I can put on one of those jerseys. You want to see one of those jerseys? I already got one on.
I thought you did, yeah.
Yeah. Should we switch it up?
Nice. Yeah, these were made by students in a different activity. So, lots of different skills, all kind of granular, all kind of scaffolding and leading towards outcomes, and all could be embedded into the core subjects and the core work that students have to do to get them more excited and more vested in the projects that they're working in. All right, cool. So I'm going to take the sharing.
Yep, all yours.
And I will. Okay. And this is a video from some teachers talking about how they have used Minecraft. This was from the Pennsylvania State Finals for their build challenges. These teachers had some great things to talk about their actual use of Minecraft in some of their lessons.
Right, and then at the middle school, kids get tired of doing the same sort of posters or Google Slides sort of presentations for projects. I introduced it to some middle school teachers. We started to do some of the ancient Civ projects. We started in Egypt, and the idea was just have the kids start with a pyramid, start small, and I undersold the whole thing. They go home, they work on it, they want to do homework. They're coming back with these full ancient Egypt cities now, scattered throughout their Minecraft land. So it's neat to see the kids get engaged and then want to go beyond what even the teacher is expecting. We've sold it to some of the math teachers as well. It's usually the perimeter area to start, and/or if you were given a budget with a supply per block, like what would the house cost? What's the square footage? How many bedrooms or bathrooms could you put into it? And then if you let the kids, because they always want to do that extra creative piece, they want to put running water in, or somebody had, and I don't know how they did it, but it was playing music as you walk through the front door, and you're like, this is awesome. So,
and I know ELA, we do Percy Jackson as a read aloud. And so one of our Minecraft project was redesign Camp Half-Blood. And so the kids redesigned a cabin for a Greek god or goddess. And it was really cool, and teachers started to enjoy just looking at how they applied what they learned from the book, their research on Greek mythology, and designed those cabins. And the kids, again, loved it and did so much more research. Like previously we did a playing card activity where they created a playing card for a Greek god, and this allowed them to go so much deeper, and the kids absolutely loved it.
And kudos to the teachers for being willing to try. We were kind of the guinea pigs for it, but they absolutely have stepped up, and people are willing to go out of their comfort zone, whether they're gamers or not, to bring it to their classroom. So it's cool.
Visiting teachers even popping in, and the kids are all on their Chromebooks, fully engaged in conversations. And like, wait, what are you doing? And so that's been really neat to just like organically spread it. Like, what are the kids talking about? What are you working on? Why are they constantly trying to come up to your classroom to finish this project?
I love that. Right. So we talk about a lot of this is kind of like core Minecraft capabilities, but you see the motivation that students have to create and to be in these spaces. And so if we could again direct that energy towards, hey, here's Blockbench, here's a tool for you to incorporate something new into your creation, something that stands out from what everyone else is building. They're going to be really excited to learn the tool, and once they learn it, they're gonna know it forever. So they'll always incorporate that into their work. So we're going to moving down this pathway here on visual arts. Let's talk about what it looks like as students are getting older and we're trying to move them towards this career. We want to get them to learn the next level of tools, right? We're building all these transferable skills. They're doing things in elementary, they're learning, they're growing. In middle school, what might it look like for us to kind of progress them a little bit further? In this tool set, we're looking at things like Fortnite Creative and Twinmotion as entry level transferable skills that start to get us closer to where we are with Unreal Engine. Twinmotion, most people don't know about. Again, we're introducing tools most people in education, just not on the radar at all. And this tool is free. It requires a little bit heavier compute power, but it's used for architectural visualization, and there's no coding in it, which makes it a little bit easier of a lift. But there's lots of creative potential in this tool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop share and turn it over to Ian to kind of talk about the so Ian, maybe what I'll do is I'll just talk about like where we're going to go with Twinmotion and then high school, and you can kind of take two of those. So when we get to high school, we're looking at things like Unreal Editor for Fortnite, which is a version of Unreal Engine that connects to Fortnite, right? So you have all of this, again, the schema, the investment, how do we tap into it? How do we make it easy to learn? How do we make it engaging? So we teach Unreal Engine skills inside of an environment that allows you to publish in Fortnite, as well as then there's Unreal Engine, which is the actual tool that you could show up to work with. Not like Eric with his Legos or his shoebox diorama. Like you show up with Unreal Engine in your toolbox, your portfolio that like this whole day has been devoted to, like lots of, preparing students for the future. If you have Unreal Engine work in your portfolio, this is the thing that will get you a job and will get you the salary and the career that you want. So we're going to kind of talk about a Unreal Editor for Fortnite-based example as well. And I'll let Ian kind of cover both of those in a row here. We can turn it over to him.
Excellent. So thank you very much, Brian. I'm going to go ahead and get this starting. And while I'm working on figuring out how to get this to share, I would love to hear from you out there who had done, you read a book and you're like, oh, they're going to do a movie. And you're like, I'll go see the movie just because I'm kind of interested to see how bad it's going to be compared to the book. Like, give me the name of the book that was better than the movie. I'd love to see what you got in chat there.
A lot of strong opinions on this usually, so I feel like
there's was it the Project Hail Mary just came out, right? I was like, oh my gosh. Yeah, there you go. What book was better than the movie? Come on now. I know you watched one. I know you read them. I know you had there. This is the interactive portion of the class.
Series of unfortunate
events. Yeah, I would 100% agree with that one. Yeah. Game of Thrones. Yep. Oh yeah, GOT. Yeah. So we got that one up there at the top. Yeah. Yeah. What about kids books? I know there's a kids book out there. The movie was actually better than the book, in my opinion. The book was really short. See if you can figure out which one I'm thinking. It had a big green character in it. A talking donkey. Anybody? Anybody? See how many
make my one eye twitching.
There you go, Shrek. Yay, right? Shrek was
everybody loves cake.
Little tiny book, and the movie was great. And now they've got all kinds of things going on. So the idea here is, remember I was talking about stories in the beginning of this, and a story is fantastic. And oftentimes you're like, I could have made that better. Now your students can. And Twinmotion is one of those ways that we can actually make this happen. So I'm going to go ahead and show you a little bit what's on screen. As mentioned before, I taught for many, many years. I still teach, I still build video games, and I taught during the pandemic. So I have all these nifty little things on my screen that help students kind of keep engaged, as well as being able to see where my mouse might actually be, right? So we want to make sure that we're being as engaging as possible. So this video I'm going to show, I'll go ahead and get it running here. This is one of the classes that we have on our LMS that allows students to work with Twinmotion. Now remember, these skills are going to be transferred in from something like Minecraft, because they're probably going to be used to navigating in 3D. I'm assuming there's probably doing okay on the screen share. It's not
Yep,
getting too many jitters.
it's looking great.
So in the middle of this, you have your beautiful little world here. And then what we want the students to do is to change this world, right? We're going to give them the world to start with. Maybe they're going to build it on their own, but in this case, right? And they're going to change the way it looks, the way it feels to fit the emotion that they're going for, right? Remember that story where it was really dark and spooky and scary? Well, this is not dark and spooky and scary, or maybe it's just, a nighttime scene, right? Maybe this is happening after hours, Think, Harry Potter had a lot of these stories that were like, they were a little bit darker. They're a little bit in the nighttime kind of shots, right? Well, how do you build that atmosphere? Well, these are tools that architects are currently using to sell their products to people that are buying buildings, to buying art installations, and it's all running on Unreal Engine technology. So they have a chance to come in here and play with this. And one of the reasons that we love this program so much is we use it when we do our professional development, and we have teachers actually walk through them. And this one is a very much drag and drop kind of program. You can grab an object, you can move it around, you can drag something in, just drop it, and it'll just work. The ambiance is a nice way to kind of get started. So those big giant brushstrokes first, like, okay, well, we need it to be nighttime. Well, I want that moon to be in there. I know that the moon was out, and we're going to get a screenshot of this later so that they can submit it to your LMS, whatever it is that you need to assess their work. What is that artifact? Well, they can take screenshots in here. We can take this even further. We're not going to get into it here, but they can actually create fly-through videos. So they're actually going from one place to another. They could do time lapses in here. So like, well, if it's going to get darker, it needed to start during daytime, and they can tell a story throughout. I've seen theaters use this as their backdrops. So if you have students that are doing stuff in like their music classes, they can take this and put it in the background, and instantly the students are building the environment that they're going to be acting out in front of and telling those stories. Ooh, interesting, right? So now that you've kind of seen this, what story would you redo? What is that story that you would go back and like fix? You're like, oh yeah, that one story, I know I could do better, kind of a thing. I'd like to hear it from you. What do you have? What do you have?
The thing that comes to mind for me is like it's like tell the story. Here's this house. Tell the story of this house. The first one, and then go through this exercise to make it scary. Then finish the story based on this scene, right? Like, how do you get them from a creative writing standpoint to, again, this ELA tie-in, getting them deeply engaged, invested in the creativity that drives the need that the teacher wants. The teacher wants them to write and create and think, and getting these skills brought in to provoke that thinking, I think is what's exciting.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So very much with the Twinmotion side, you're taking information from a book or a story, or maybe it's a news article, right? What's happening in current events, and how do you recreate that in a three-dimensional world? So you're taking what you see, and then we're checking your comprehension, the student, and maybe yourself. You're checking the comprehension, and then that is what you're actually assessing on the far side, right? So you can see this progression, and if you want to do paper and pencil, like I said, I was an artist. I did illustrations in all of my notebooks. So I was always the one getting in trouble for it. Now I can do this all in 3D and get in trouble for it too. Brian's always like, slow down, bro. Like, stop. Right. Okay. Here's another question for you. Hopefully you can see this little tiny thing on screen. I'm going to hold this book up. This is one of my favorite books. It's by an author named Terry Pratchett, and it's called Going Postal. And within this book, we have a protagonist who has not made the most wonderful choices, right? And as a designer, as a game designer or a storyteller, we can actually kind of take that to the next level. So we've gone from something like Minecraft, where we're building worlds. We've gone into something like Twinmotion, where we're using comprehension and these other higher end 3D skills. Now we're going to go into what's called UEFN, so the Unreal Editor for Fortnite. This is used as a way to express stories, to make games, to write code, and let's actually change the story a little bit. So a little bit back up here. So we wake up as the protagonist, and we've been captured by the town's head person. So that is this character, whoop, wait for it, right here. This right there, for those of you that are paying attention, I'm drawing on screen now, right? So this is Vetinari. Vetinari has captured us, and he's giving us a second chance at life because he's like, I know that I can use you in my town and make the town a better place. And you're thinking, well, this is odd. I was not a great person in the past, so how do I do this? So we put together this little scene where it is the inside of Vetinari's office. Okay. And here we are given a choice. Now I'm going to go ahead and turn the camera around really quickly. All right. So if I turn the camera around, we are presented, and I'll move back a little bit. We're presented with two doors. We've got one on the left, right? So there's that one. And then we've got one on the right. Okay. And as the player, we get to choose that. Now here's the fun, interesting part about this ELA part of it. I know how the story ends, but maybe I want the story to end a different way. And how do I do that? Now, before I get into spoilers, I want to show you how we can do that inside of this application. And I want to show you a couple things that are going to look a little bit familiar from what Eric was showing earlier. So over here on the right-hand side of the screen, so this whole area that you see over here, you'll notice that there's a giant list of things. This is a hierarchy. This hierarchy is the same thing that we see when we're working with files. It's the same thing that we see when we're working with three-dimensional characters. And this is everything. It is reflected, and I'm going to go ahead and do this really quick so it's really obvious, right? It is reflected in the world. So where can we find things? This is a great opportunity for your students to say, hey, I know I put that thing inside of the world, but I don't remember where it is. Well, using the skills that they picked up way back when, they can come up here to the top right and start searching for those things. Maybe they gave it a specific name that goes with the character. Maybe they didn't give it a specific name, and they probably should have. It's a great learning opportunity. Just saying, might have happened once or twice, right? Now they can go back and actually say, okay, that's where that thing is. Now I can change the story, and this is where I want to go. But let's take it a step further. So within the story, we have a conversation with Vetinari, and this is a conversation tree. Your students can very easily copy and paste what's in the book, but it's probably not going to be the exact same because their brain and their filter is going to kind of put it in a different order. And what we can do here is we can actually have Vetinari give us some information up at the very top. Like, aha, you're awake and alive, I notice. It's kind of a rough guy, right? And your response as the player, as the protagonist, as the person that's experiencing this, they get to say what it is that's going on. Well, we were just kind of dragged across the countryside on the back of a golem. If you don't know what a golem is, it's a giant stone character that was basically dragging us from one place to another to get us back to Vetinari. And here, he's like, hey, I believe in second chances. Well, now this is where it diverges. The student gets a chance to say, okay, what would this specific individual feel? What would I feel if I had to deal with this? Do I give them a snarky answer, or do I give them an honest answer? Where do I want to kind of diverge this storytelling, right? And from that, we actually get different responses from the NPC, from Vetinari, right? So now not only do they get to play with who they are as the character playing through this scenario, but they get to kind of play with the NPC and how the NPC work in a way that they feel would be necessary for the responses that they're actually giving, right? Now, in this case, it's just going to go back down to the very bottom of this, and we're going to continue on and have a choice, right? So it's pretty simple. It's a simple way to make these things happen. So what does that look like actually in game? Well, luckily for us, because we have a game engine, we can test this thing basically in real time. So I'm going to jump over here, and this is Fortnite, and I'll go ahead and play the game. And inside of here, we wake up in this area, so we can kind of look around. You can see that I'm going to use my controller here. Oh, by the way, if your students are very much more familiar with using a controller versus a mouse and keyboard, this is a great way to have them be like, okay, cool. This is a familiar area for me to work in, right? So I can look around, right? I can see the two doors. Sorry, I know that it's moving really fast. I'll slow the camera down a little bit. So we have our two doors here, right? Now, if I turn around, and this is where the coding actually comes in, but we're not going to talk about the coding because that's not important right now. We actually start to get information down here at the bottom of the screen. I'll move my subtitles down here. So at the bottom, we say, you're awake and alive, I notice. So we have veterinary. We got to choose what this NPC looks like. And his little hench character over here on the side. I know I'm breaking canon. If you know the story, I understand that, right? And I can go ahead and grunt, be like, bummer, right? We get some dialogue at the bottom of it, and we get to choose. All right, so this is the interactive portion. Do we choose I feel terrible or oh goody? Give me a 1 if you want the top one. Give me a 2 if you want the bottom one in the chat.
Who's the snarky group here?
Are we gonna get a snarky
Are
group?
we snarky or are
Oh
we...
goody. Are we doing number 2? Oh, we got a 1. We got a 2. Do we have a tiebreaker?
Uh-oh.
Any more? Wait for it. Wait for it. Ah, there we go. Okay, so we're gonna do a snarky one. Here we go. So we'll say, oh goody. All right. So you've had your fun, and now it's time to have the same choice that you were given before. Ooh, what was the choice that we were given before? Did you read the book? Were you paying attention? All right. Well, we're gonna go ahead and choose choice time down here at the bottom of it. Now, if I turn around, whoop, and we look at these two doors, we have another set of dialogue that's coming in. It says, do you remember your choices, Mr. Lipwig? So Lipwig is the protagonist that we're playing. So we have choices up here. What are my choices again? Or old life or new life? All right, so what do we choose? Top one or bottom? 1 or 2? 1 or 2? And I'm watching after Andrews. Thank you for participating. Every time I build one of these worlds, I'm always like, are the teachers going to get involved? Or are they just going to sit there in the PD? What's going on?
You have a few ones, but the 2s are winning here. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So 1s, right? What were those choices?
There's
again?
the 2. Andrew's the tiebreaker again. Yeah.
We need. It's 1 and 1 and 2 and 2. Eeny, meeny, miny.
There's 3 2s and 2 1s. So
I see it now. Okay, so we got 2s. Dyslexia is a wonderful thing as an artist. I just want to let you know that. It makes it hard to read things, but there it is. All right. So old life or new life, right? Cool. So, so you were paying attention last time. Good. So make your choice. Now, this is interesting. We have an option here that says, what were those choices again? Now I can choose old life or I can choose new life. Now, before we choose, keep in mind what you want, right? I'm going to go back up into UEFN and let's look at the other dialogue tree. So these dialogue trees are great because it gives, again, the choice of which direction we want to go. Now you'll see at the very beginning of this one's going to split and go 2 different directions. So we have that, what was it again? And then we have this old life or new life, right? So this is our option 2. This is our option 1, right? So we went down option 2. Oh, buddy. Oh my goodness. Look at this. Okay. Well, it's not that bad. I thought we were playing tic-tac-toe there for a second. There's X's, all kinds of what's going on. So now we have a flow chart. Anybody use a flow chart in their classroom? There's another one of those interesting transferable skills that comes over to living 3D interactive experiences, right? So now we can actually go down here and take a look. We have 3 options. So this is where we are currently sitting within the game. Now, if we go ahead and choose this one over here on the right, it's actually going to come back around and we get to kind of restart. So when we're building experiences, we may want to give some information back to someone. Who knows? Maybe they had to set down the controller and they had to go to lunch. Maybe they got interrupted during their lunch because they were, I don't know, grading papers. I don't know. It might happen, right? So if we give whoever it is that we're having this interactive experience with a second chance, like we were doing in the beginning of this story, we start to see a theme that kind of rolls through, right? Not every student is going to get this stuff right away the first time. Not every player is going to be able to see this stuff the very first time. Now, we're making a couple of assumptions here too. Think about your classroom. How many students get it on the first go? Most of them, maybe, right? If they need a little bit of extra help, this is a way that we can teach that same concept when we're doing things like game design, UI and UX design. Maybe we're telling a story like, I don't know, Quentin Tarantino does, where you kind of hear the same thing over and over and over, but from different perspectives to get all of the information so you know what happens in the end of it. Storytelling can be done a multitude of different ways, and being able to write it out, or in this case, type it out, you can actually manipulate what's going to be going on within the classroom and have your students do specific things that you want to based on what you are teaching in your classroom. In this case, it happens to be storytelling, but it could be coding. It could be art. It could be environment building, right? Okay, so down here at the bottom, we have our two options. We have our events that are going to happen. So again, this is kind of what the coding is, but we're going to skip on over it. Let's jump back into here. So the twos had it. So we're going to go ahead and choose our new life down here in the bottom right. And once we choose that, we have a door that opens up. And if we walk through said door, we will get confirmation that we've actually continued the direction that the story actually went, or in a direction that is going to be positive for the people of the city, right? So now you and your students can choose where they're going to go beyond this. So hopefully you kind of get an idea of how the scaffolding happens throughout all of the scaffolding, or sorry, throughout all of the grades to get up to this point where we start working with things like Twin Motion and UEFN. And all of this stuff transfers into the Unreal Engine, which is the coup de grace of all the cool toys that you get to play with.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, Ian. So hopefully, with Eric and Ian's demos, you could see the thing the connection we need to make is that these skills that we're teaching are not what the lessons are. The skills are skills that the student acquires, right? So when you ask a student that knows how to draw a diagram of something relative to what you're teaching, you're not teaching them how to draw a diagram and teaching them the topic that they're drawing a diagram about. You're asking them to use the skill that they have acquired to apply it to the learning, right? And so to a lot of you, this might be unfamiliar. So you'll be like, well, I need to learn this in order to do these lessons. But the idea here is that we embed these skills for students to have so that they can bring them to the table when it comes time to do the work that needs to be done, right? And so, we're talking about all the different, when it comes to visual arts, what kind of career opportunities will open up for students that just kind of in this niche, they're loving this niche. Like they're going above and beyond. They're spending 4 hours on their homework. They're going deeper. They're learning from videos. They're learning from friends. They're learning new software. They're pushing the limit. Like all of a sudden we've tapped into this intrinsic motivation that we kind of released the monster when it comes to this. These students can start to find career possibilities in this area that they've kind of gravitated towards and that they love to bring to the table when they do their homework. And where do you find places to do this? This is really up to every school. Some schools are like, where am I going to teach these skills? Well, I mean, I just turn that around and say, where are you going to teach these skills? And they could be in the classroom. They could be before and after school. They could be assigned, they could be outside of the school. They could be done in independent choice time for students. Not every student has to be at the same exact level. These is choices that students can make on how they want to navigate their learning. So it gives them agency over how they want to do their work. It's not you saying every work needs to be done in a video game. It's saying that if you're going to be doing work in video games, here's some skills you should acquire that are going to benefit you in the future, and you can apply to the work that you do to make you more engaged in the work that you do in the classroom. Right. So we're combining those pieces together. And so just to kind of keep an eye on time, I'm going to kind of cruise through some of the last few things, then address any questions that we have. And thank you guys all for your time here. But we also, as a company, want to just drop some other resources for you that if you have of interest, these align to our vision. When it comes to esports, the reason we occupy an esports space is, again, because we see an opportunity for students to grow beyond what most mentors are capable of kind of guiding them towards. So we have programs where we make the student the creator of the esports experience. So it's tricky to empower the student to create a meaningful experience that could be used as an official competition. But we have a thing called a construction kit program that we use for parkour and bed wars that help guide students towards creating their own competitive arenas that they can compete in for their esports seasons. And we've done that for the state of Pennsylvania, for South Florida, a number of different provinces in Canada are all using these programs with great success. We have a CTE workforce partnership program. Basically, we provide students with training. We connect them to industry experts, get their network started, and also give them paid work experience working with some of the most innovative companies that we have in our network as paid work experience for students. So our CTE Workforce Partnership Program is always coming up with new work experiences as well as training experiences, and we are definitely embracing AI as a useful tool, as a in a work environment, because it is an important work environment tool. Our UEFN game jams are one way to bring this learning to schools in a short period of time. So, like in a weekend, we bring a intense training session as well as a deep mentorship to students where they create something along a theme. When we do it in high schools, we typically align it to a nonviolent single player type activity where every student creates something. We've supported animation programs. We've worked with BRIC, with Englewood High School School District, to create animation activities that support the animation program in Englewood. So we can align activities towards the audience and to the ecosystem that they're in. Virtual Exhibit Learning Kit allows students to create museums and exhibits, demonstrate their learning, demonstrate understanding, communicate, tell stories inside of Fortnite. This is where people can create art shows and other exhibits and things like that. Virtual production, if you're in video production, would like to see how Unreal Engine skills come to the table for these careers, we have a learning kit that doesn't require all the physical hardware. If you have a computer that runs Unreal Engine, we simulate the entire experience for you. So you get to learn what virtual production is and what the role of Unreal Engine is in that career pathway. Again, all those skills kind of transferring over to that. And we also have a game design curriculum that it really connects to, you saw our pathway, the way we broke out the categories. The curriculum works the same way. As it gets students to create, it gets them to observe and kind of self-inquire, how much do I like this skill versus that skill? And it turns out to be a career exploration as well as using those tools to create products. We're a training company. If you're an educator looking for training, we have contracts with both Microsoft on the Minecraft side, as well as we're an Unreal Authorized Training Center, and we're Epic's in-house secondary training company. So anytime there's opportunities, you'll see there's a Epic Secondary Educator Accelerator program that's available for free. We run that. That's over the summer. If anybody's interested, you can send us a chat on that one. And just kind of, package everything up per school with everything in it is like $5K a year, $2,500 for kind of like a more of a starter pack. So from a pricing standpoint, that's all of our stuff. And then this QR code and URL will take you to our website. If you do want to get in touch with us, please go here and then pick your Minecraft or Unreal direction. And then there's a form on those pages. You could reach out to us to get your questions answered. And speaking of questions answered, I think we
got them all answered.
Answered all the questions.
Yeah, we're good.
Does anybody else have any final questions before we head out? Don't forget, there's some surveys and stuff, and BRIC is sharing some things in the chat. Don't forget those.
Yes, please fill those out.
Yeah, thank you so much for taking time on your weekend. I hope this was informative. Any aha moments for anybody in this that you want to share before you head out?
I forgot the food in the fridge for the oven. I don't know.
All right, well, it's not.
My toe on the edge of the desk.
Yes, thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate you all being here.
Yeah, thank you.